the Naturalist reporting from Punxsutawney, PA on Groundhog Day 2024. Let's go. All right, I took a shuttle bus to Gobbler's Knob, Punxsutawney, PA to see what the groundhog has to say for this year. Is it going to be 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring? It's kind of a madhouse. All right, I had to take shuttle buses from a parking lot a couple miles away to get to the grounds, which I'm about to enter here. And there's supposedly supposed to be 10,000 people that come to see this each year. And even though I grew up just about 25 miles away from Punxsutawney, I never came here on Groundhog's Day. I've been to Punxsutawney, of course, but not on this day. So this is a first for me and perhaps a first for most of you too. So we're going to enter the grounds of the famous Gobbler's Knob. About to walk through the gate. Okay, this is entrance to this event is free, and then there's, you know, food trucks and all those sorts of things set up. Seems to be pretty well organized. They've been doing this since the late 1800s. I think we're probably around 130 years of this or so, maybe even longer. And so I think they have this figured out by now. I see there's news crews all over the place. Broadcasting, I'm looking for Phil Connors. And there's currently music. There's down at the stage, out in the distance there. That's where they'll haul out Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, who's ostensibly the star of the show today. So we're gonna see what he has to say, and I'll talk about groundhogs throughout the day. But my plan for this episode is just to take this all in, toss in some facts about groundhogs once in a while, and look around town, see what's going on. See if I can find Needle-Nosed Ned. Here's a little photo op station with a groundhog. It's a cool day, but not too cold. It's maybe about 38, 39 degrees out here. There's no snow. Fortunately, it's not muddy, not too wet at the moment. It might get that way with all this trampling by people. But it's pretty exciting. Everybody's excited. It's still dark. All right, they're gonna haul Punxsutawney Phil out of his burrow. I'll tell you more about what that is, where he lives later throughout the day. But just here to take it all in. I'm gonna try to get as close as I can to this event, but it's packed. So let's look around at the crowd. About to start the formal festivities.
Minutes, what are you talking about? Phil's not coming out yet?
Sorry. The stage is filled with handlers and security. Sorry.
Here's the Groundhog! Be at him! Yes, sir. My pleasure. Good Friday morning to you all. I do want to talk to you about the Jefferson stand before you. We have some dignitaries that would like to make First of all, Senator Joe Pittman, Commissioner our Mayor, of course, our Attorney General, Michelle Henry, we keep showing up and we keep on. As my ladies and comrades, I want to start with you because he's been on stage at Mrs. 3 a.m. Give it up. He's gone through at least 2 tuxedo shirts already today. Give it up for the This is the Butch and Butch part of the show. First up, former member, Cold Front, Punxsutawney. And the other Butchie. You can be his wingman, he can be yours. This is Iceman, Butch Miller. Give it up to the big man, Rob McCoy, down more. Josh Marcus, he is frostbite. It's fitting that we say hello to George Siri and he's Daybreaker. Rolling up with his Storm Builder. The guy standing way up there is Dr. John Johnson, Chief Health Well, he's seated at the left-hand of the father. The future is clear, but Jay Lundy is overcast. Former president, give it up to Jack Lundy, fair weatherman. Pat Cassidy is the head puncher. And Pat also comes over is here. Give him up. His head, Mr. AJ Groom, Rain Ranger. And heavyweight Jefferson president of the Groundhog Inner Circle is Bob Knuckles, Jingle Shaker.
Let's go, Phil! Out front! MVP! Too bad MVP's hurt. Four more years! Go on me! He's out! Eagle! Go Eagles! Go Birds!
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen up here today. I'm going to take this cane and I'm going to knock on the barrel door.
Knock on the door! Knock on the door! Come on!
This handler, hold high, see. He's in the house. Shadow, he sees 6 weeks.
That boy stop!
Mr. Vice President, please place his rolls at first round. Tell me when you're ready. There's a tradition. Before we get to go, we get a full round. My champion,
Let's go, Bryce Harper! MVP!
Bring out the beaver!
Oh, 6 more weeks! Let's go! Let's go! 6 more! We love snow over here.
Popular person! You know what? The popular person is
Anyone know? We're live.
I'm just gonna go save the spring. Yeah, you're not even the real Groundhog, you're human. Get out of the way.
Hey, we have a decision.
Yeah!
Shut up!
Prediction has been made, Mr. President. Now on this February 2nd, Punxsutawney film, Sears, prognosticator of all prognosticators. was awakened from his wintry nap at dawn. Gobbler's Knob. Phil looked to the skies and then, speaking in Groundhogese, directed the president to drop a scroll, which reads, "Another winter slumbered pause so I could meet the crowd. Hard to sleep anyway, the party's this loud. I envy your energy, I envy the fun. I envy all of you and your opposable thumbs. But it's not what I feel, it's what I see and what you hear, so gather round and let me be clear. Atmosphere is a wonderful thing, and we can create our own, and the weather it brings. It brings hope for the future and so much more. Maybe some Punxsutawney Phil write-in votes in 2024.
Go, Phil!
But what this weather did not provide is a shadow or reason.
We take dark a rest of hope. Yet we know that winter is just another step in the cycle of life. I'm standing here among the people of Punxsutawney and basking in the warmth of their hearths and hearts. I couldn't imagine a better fate than a long and lustrous winter.
All this way. Really not.
Craig. Where's Craig? Where's Craig?
An operation.
Is he coming?
Here's one. I'll step over.
There he is.
Take
the fork.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't fall.
Here's the one. You got a four. You're right down here. Thank you, guys. You guys are next.
Okay. I'm just trying to get ready.
Right here. Right behind. How many? Three.
It was an adventure, but we did it. Fine.
So what do we got? You got four?
Yes, sir.
He's stuck there. He's hiding. We don't even have to our picture.
Oh, you can just see his eyeball.
Finally get here and he's hiding.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you bet. Thanks for being patient. I come in. Thank you. Are you guys finally got a group together back here? That's your whole group? Yes. 7. How about going with Shickle Shaker as soon as he's got these people out of it?
I'm next. Phil's hiding.
Phil.
Okay, I can take a couple.
I'm
right
single.
here. Okay,
Yeah.
right there.
There you go.
Oh, it's right here.
Shake. He's got some. Yep. On the outside there.
Got it? Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
There's Phil. He's tired. He was jumping around a lot earlier. Here we are at Gobbler's Knob on stage, the site of the famous prognostication, early spring this year.
There he is, right there.
Wait, Karen.
It's Phil's little enclosure. That field was filled with people earlier. Probably 40,000 people was the estimate.
So yeah, it was really a good crowd. Yeah. It helps it's Friday. Right. Tuesday it's -6 and raining sideways.
Do you have an estimate of how many people were here?
Oh, there had to have been 30,000 people here.
Yeah, seemed like it. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, cool. Well, I finally made it to Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney, PA. It was a crush of people here, probably 30,000 people or more. It's like the size of an athletic stadium worth people here. They had, the hype crew on stage for hours before the big event. It's like a family event. They get school off in the area. And it was a good time. Everybody was having a good time. I waited in line for about an hour to get that picture with Phil up close. And I thought about abandoning that for a while, but it moved. And so they'll keep Phil up there probably until everybody's gotten through, or else he gets tired. He is tired. He's sleeping right now. So it is early, Normally a groundhog wouldn't even be out of the ground this time of year. But in any case, we're going to take a walk around town, see what else there is to see around here, and talk a little bit more about groundhogs and Groundhog Day. But here I am reporting from Gobbler's Knob, Punxsutawney, PA. This is the Naturalist. So there's a huge line to get on these shuttle buses to get back to the parking area where I parked. So I decided to walk it along with a lot of other people. I got a 1.5 mile walk back to my car, and then I'm going to head back into town in downtown Punxsutawney and just take a look around, see what there is to see. Now I've retreated to Barclay Square in downtown Punxsutawney, and we're just going to walk around the square a little bit, and I'm going to show you where Punxsutawney Phil lives in the off season in terms of his job, and just indicate to you that in the movie Groundhog Day, if you are familiar with that movie, which I am, I watch it every year this time. This is basically where they depict Punxsutawney Phil coming out of his burrow. Okay, so there's a stage over there. We'll go visit that in a minute. And in the movie, they more or less depict the activity being in the center square of the town. So in reality, Punxsutawney Phil does his thing in Gobbler's Knob, which is about 2 miles outside of town. So let's take a walk over here and see where Punxsutawney Phil lives most of the time. So this is the town municipal building and library. We're gonna go take a look at his burrow. Of course, groundhogs are burrowing mammals. Here he is. There are variations of this all over town. Here's the burrow. Some fun facts about Punxsutawney Phil. They've been doing this since the late 1800s, so Phil is pretty old at this point. At least that's what we tell everybody. There's his burrow. There's just a little bit about the legend. It's not every day I drink a beer at 9:30 in the morning, but when you got a brewery with a booth serving Ned Ryerson Rye IPA, you got to go with it. All right, so I'm gonna nurse my beer and take a look around Barclay Square here, and just kind of show you this is the spot being depicted in Groundhog Day where they bring out Punxsutawney Phil, and that would be probably this area right over here. The Groundhog Day was actually filmed in Woodstock, Illinois, in a town that was a pretty fair representation of Punxsutawney, if you ask me. Okay, but they, in that movie, they more or less have the crew up on a stage like that one. All right, but here's a temporary stage with music. There's music and stuff going on all over town today. Starting, at 3 o'clock in the morning out at Gobbler's Knob, and just everybody drifts into town. And this is, they have food trucks, art fair, food, beer, what have you, music, fires. So, good old Pennsylvania festival setting. Lots of distilleries, lots of breweries. This has all sprung up since I used to live around this area. I grew up 25 miles south of here. And these kinds of areas didn't have that sort of thing at that time. But they certainly have it now. And I'm hearing estimates of 30 to 40,000 people were up at Gobbler's Knob. You add in the town population of about 6,000 people and visitors. This town swells to probably the size, about 50,000 people for these couple of days around Groundhog Day. And then by tomorrow, it'll shrink back down to its normal little self. All right, folks, I'm here with Dan McGinley. He's a member of the Groundhog Club.
Correct.
And was an officiant up at Gobbler's Knob today. And so I just would like to hear what your opinions of the day have been so far.
So far, so good. We had a great crowd, huge numbers. I don't think it's an overstatement to say this was our biggest Groundhog Day ever.
Wow.
I was standing on stage. I could not see the back of the crowd. Our boy Phil predicted the right scroll once again, and it seemed like it was just a great time had by all. So now we're just celebrating. So yeah, it's been a great day.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how the event ran up there. This is my first time as well. I grew up in Indiana, Pennsylvania, but never made it up here on this day. So I was really impressed. And now, what's his record? Spring versus winter.
Oh, it's very rare. I just reviewed this before this year. I want to say that he had, before today, over 130 something years, predicted 21 springs. And the rest winters, other than there are 10 predictions that go way, way, way back that we don't have the record for.
Okay.
So there's 10 records we don't have.
Right.
And 21 springs, the rest all winter.
Right, okay. So this event started in what year?
The Punxsutawney Groundhog Club was formed in 1887.
Okay. And they've been doing the event at Gobbler's Knob that long?
Well, that location has changed over the years. That was in the 50s or 60s we went up there. But it's always been held at Punxsutawney, yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been involved?
Today was my 12th stage show. I helped host the stage show. This is my 12th year.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. It's been great.
Hey, thank you. Happy Groundhog Day.
Well, while we're on the theme of large mammals, small and large, that is, here's a couple of workhorses. These are Percherons who are pulling a little wagon around so people can get rides. And these are beautiful, massive, beefy horses. How old are your horses? How old are they?
14.
About 14 years? How old were horses like that live?
30.
About 30? Yep. Nice. Thanks. I talk a lot about wood and trees in my series, and so here's artwork made out of those things. Just chainsaw art. And the fellow that does it is over here obviously making one right now. Got all your standard Americana, eagles, bears, foxes. Nice stuff. I agree with you, buddy. Oh, we got our new Americana though. Bigfoot as well. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber. Somebody just asked if I was a TikToker. I had to tell them I'm just a YouTuber. Okay, that was cool. Got a lot of stuff. A lot of interesting things. Keep looking around.
I've got a bad feeling. My baby won't live here no more.
This sign is interesting. It's about the least descriptive historical marker I've ever seen, but it does indicate that Punxsutawney as a town was incorporated in 1818, and the name is of Indian origin, as it says, but further, it's named after mosquitoes, which is, I find interesting, but it makes sense. It's apparently from the Shawnee. The word punkies was used for mosquito, and Punxsutawney is basically translated from land of the mosquitoes. And when I think back as a kid, I remember my own dad used to call little mosquitoes punkies. You're being bothered by punkies. And I had no idea where that name ever came from, but it is of apparently Shawnee origin, and is the origin of the name Punxsutawney. Now, when you grow up around here, this town went by a nickname Punxsy, just called it Punxsy for short. And so there you go. The building in front of me, which is also depicted in various ways in the movie Groundhog Day, is, I see, under renovation. It's now called the Shadow Hotel. When I was growing up in this area, it was called the Punxsutawney Hotel, or the Punxsy Hotel. And this is a historic hotel, downtown Punxsutawney, and I see it's under renovation. A sign in a window said it would open in 2025, and it's now called the Shadow Hotel, which I guess you can imagine the origin of that. So I just did a quick little walk around downtown Punxsutawney, and just a reminder, if you do so, just watch your step. That first one is a doozy. I've retreated some distance from Punxsutawney now to basically conclude our episode by talking a little bit more about groundhogs as a wild animal. And I've come to a place where there are groundhogs. They're in the ground right now, but just to show you the kind of habitats that groundhogs like to occupy. And I'm going to start some distance away from a known burrow over here to talk a little bit, because once I get closer to that burrow, there's a dog here that will start barking at me. And so You'll probably hear that in the background as I get close to the burrow. But let's talk about groundhogs. So groundhogs are a ground-dwelling mammal. And their genus and species is Marmota monax. So they are marmots. And their closest relatives are squirrels, and ground squirrels in particular. You could consider groundhogs a giant ground squirrel. They're in the family Sciuridae. So they spend most of their time this time of year underground and hibernating. So they're true hibernating animals. They will bulk up all throughout the spring and summer, gaining extra pounds, fat. And so when they go into hibernation, a big male might weigh 15 or 18 pounds. And then they'll lose half of that over the winter because they don't eat, right? Their body temperature can go down to about 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're almost freezing. Their heart rate goes down to 5 or 10 beats a minute. Okay, so their metabolism slows down incredibly. And they'll spend 4 to 5 months underground, even longer in some cases. So they're going into the ground in November, say around here in Pennsylvania, typically coming out in March. Here we are, this is the day after Groundhog Day now. This is February 3rd. And they're supposed to be underground at this time of year, although I've heard reports of people back in Ohio that saw a groundhog yesterday, okay, which is not normal. All right, now, so they spend those 4 or 5 months underground, and then they come out and they're vegetarians, right? So they eat lots of plant material. They're known as farm and garden pests. They eat all the stuff you like to grow in your backyard garden. They graze in pastures. They like clover and alfalfa, but they like all your vegetables you like to grow. So they can become pests in gardening and backyard situations, not only because of what they eat, but because of the damage they can do with their burrowing activities. And if you're a farmer that raises cattle or horses, those things can be liabilities for animals like that step in their burrows and injure themselves. That can happen to people too, of course. So they are burrowing animals. They live for 5 to 10 years, typically in the wild. Probably more 5 to 6 on average in the wild, but in captivity, they can live about 10 years. So back to Punxsutawney Phil, there have been many Punxsutawney Phils through the years, obviously. And they're not all males either. So there you go. There goes that legend. So groundhogs, what else can I tell you about them? They create burrows, and we'll walk over and take a look at one in a minute here, where we'll conclude. They make burrows that can be 25 to 40 feet underground, several feet, 2 to 3 feet under the surface, typically. They'll have multiple chambers. They'll have chambers where they go to the bathroom. They'll have chambers where they have their litter of young and raise their young. They'll have chambers that are the hibernation chambers, okay? And so any given burrow will have multiple chambers, and it will have multiple entrances. So if you see a large, long-occupied burrow in the field, you'll see where multiple entrances are. And they're very faithful to their entrances and their pathways they take to get to their feeding areas. So groundhogs that have been in a particular area for a long time will wear down a path in the lawn or the ground near their entrances, and just, they use the same path every day all season long. And so they end up beating down a path. It's very, very obvious to see, crossing bike trails and, coming from the edge of the woods into the fields and that kind of thing. So they have very regular patterns in that regard. Groundhogs have all kinds of different names: woodchuck, whistlepig. Groundhog is what we mostly call them here in Pennsylvania. And of course, there are lots of different forms of Punxsutawney Phil. There's what used to be known as Buckeye Chuck in Ohio. There's Steamboat Willie down south. I think that's in, Mississippi. And so there are lots of forms of Punxsutawney Phil, but Punxsutawney Phil is the original, okay, the original prognosticator. Okay, now I think that's enough fun facts about groundhogs. I'll think of more, I'm certain, as I'll walk. And now I'm going to walk over to the burrow just to take a look at that. A lot of you've probably seen a groundhog burrow before, but we'll take a look at one and show you the kind of habitats that these things like to occupy. So I'm in a little farmette kind of area and, you know, with a lot of edges. This was maintained as like a pasture for a long time, so it would have pasture grasses and clover and those kinds of things in the summer. Lots of edges where groundhogs like to make their burrow. And then there were gardens and things here, so lots to eat. So let's take a walk. There's a big pile of dirt that was placed here a number of years ago, and the groundhogs have dug into that and used it as a site to make their burrows. So we'll look at that. I'm sure the dog, as soon as it sees me, is going to start to bark at me. An old beagle. Okay, and so in this dirt pile here is a series, and there are a series of holes all over it. So just gonna show you. Okay, typical groundhog burrow. You can see the diameter is about 5 or 6 inches in diameter. And I cleared this out a little bit. You know, it's in disrepair, that they haven't come in and out of this thing for a couple of months now. There's the dog on cue. And then as you look around this dirt pile, there are other entrances. But when they're active, back in, you know, once we hit later in March, it's a warm day, but it's going to get colder again, I'm sure. Although Punxsutawney Phil predicted an early spring. Any case, when they get active again, they'll come out of this burrow and start to, you know, come out here and start to feed, you know, where they like to. So that's a true groundhog burrow. Unlike Phil's burrow in the town library in Punxsutawney, these are asleep in their hibernation chambers, probably for a few more months, at least another month or two. On average, okay? So I think with that, I'll conclude this episode on Punxsutawney Phil, Groundhog Day, and groundhogs. Thanks for joining me on this one. It was fun, okay? It was a first for me. And again, maybe a first for a lot of you too. So with that, I'll sign off as the Naturalist and see you next time. Bye-bye. Wait a minute. Didn't I do this yesterday?